1948, when they used this place as a police training school, they added the pipes, so the policemen were going up and down as a way of exercising or strengthening their muscles. At the center of this courtyard, we have a church, the first Catholic church, built by the Portuguese. When the Portuguese got in here, they were Catholics, so they built this church. When the Dutch took over, they were Protestants, so they stopped using this. Rather, they divided it horizontally into two. They used the top one as officers' mess, where they were eating and drinking, and the down one as hall of trade, where the Africans were auctioned or sold. But now, it is a museum. When the English were here, they used it as classrooms. Over here is a plaque, and it was written by a pastor known as A. Andresi. And he comes from Viera, and Viera is a province in Zealand. Now, he wrote all of this in memory of a governor known as Tet. Now, this governor was the last Director General over the north and south coast of Africa. Tet arrived here in Ghana on the 16th of January, 1758, and died in the same year on the 12th of March at the age of 41. So all that the pastor is saying is that this governor Tet, whilst he was here, he was just, honest, respectful, and virtuous. As to how virtuous he was during the time of the slave trade, only the pastor could possibly explain. And when Tet died, he was buried right over here. We have two separate cells here. This is the European cell, and the one with the skull and the crossbone is a condemned cell for the Africans. Now let's get in here so I tell you the story. Meaning if you stay behind, you wouldn't hear it. Don't forget, when you get in, I will lock you all up. Part of the experience.
So you mean it, eh?
You are all in a cell now.
Okay.
And this cell was for the Europeans. Some of the soldiers went out without permission, came back to the castle drunk and started misbehaving. So they were captured, put in here for some few hours and later on released. And as you can see, because this was for the Europeans and not the Africans, look at how well ventilated the place is. And the lights and every other thing. Now from here, we are going to compare it to the next one and observe the difference.
Okay.
This was a condemned cell for the Africans. Those who fought for freedom, their leaders were captured, put in here, were not given food nor water till they died. Yeah, and when they were dead, they were thrown into the sea. And the only source of ventilation whilst they were in here was up there. Courtyard is a water tank or a reservoir. Rainwater was used to store it, and it had 20,000 gallons went through. It was constructed by the Portuguese. Now, when the Dutch got in here, they were thinking the Portuguese might have poisoned it, so they stopped using it. By disproving that water in there was not poisoned, they were just scared of assault. After defeating them, they need to be afraid. Most of the Europeans who came down to trade never came along with their women, and they could not stay here alone without them. So the governor, the soldiers, and the merchants kept on abusing these women. Now the woman chosen would have been in the dungeons for months without cleaning herself, yet the governor wanted her. So it became the responsibility of the soldier at the time to have that woman washed. How did he do it? He would fetch water from this well. The woman is meant to stand at the center of this courtyard and washed. Women from the other dungeons looked on. Now, after this humiliation, she is dressed up, given something little to eat, just to be strong. Then up on the stairs here, we call the private access to the governor's bedroom. She is taken out where the governor will bring her. Now let's check that one. After this woman is cleaned, she is made to walk up these steps through a point we call trapdoor, from the trapdoor to the governor's bedroom. After the governor has raped her, she is brought back down into the dungeon. Instances where she could even tell you that before she was brought down. Over here is a common ball, and at the time we had 8 of such balls here. And these balls were used to punish the women who were difficult to control. Now, a woman difficult to control and handle is the one who would resist, not allowing herself to be sexually abused. So this woman is taken out of the dungeon, made to stand here. These had chains and shackles connected to it, so the chains were fettered to the legs. So she was made to stand in the sun, in the rain, without food, without water, as means of punishment. Now they were doing this just to put fear in the other women. So when next the governor calls, they will be in haste to respond to that. And this weighs 25 kilo. So just imagine, 25 kilo, one on the left, one on the right, on an empty stomach. You cannot move. Now let's come over here. This room used to be the largest of the dungeon for the women. And over here you could talk about 150 of them. You still look at the floor as hard as it is where they were packed or were sleeping. They gave them food or water once or twice in a day, a very little just to keep them alive. And for a month or 2, they were held in here and mostly allowed out whenever the governor wanted to pick one to use. Now that hole you see there, among others, were for ventilation. But unfortunately, it was connected to a point they called magazine, where the Europeans kept their ammunition. So whenever there was any leakage, you can just imagine the toxic and the poison came straight into this room and will worsen the already bad situation over here. Over here too, 2 receptacles or containers were provided, one at the corners on which they were expected to use to ease themselves or to go to toilet into it. But they talk about the fact that staying here for a month, getting on to the next month, most of them became too weak to the point that they couldn't get up to use these containers. So practically, they ended up doing everything on the floor. So this floor you see here sometimes past used to carry feces, urine, vomit, and menstrual blood. And you seriously cannot underestimate the heat and the stench that was in here. And these, among others, explains why they were dying. And over here too, those died were thrown into the sea. I used to be the boardroom for the government, meaning he had these important meetings and decisions taken over here. We have converted it into a craft shop where you can get all your beautiful items. Now, the room we just came out from, together with this room, were the living rooms for the governor. Over here is his bedroom. Behind the bedroom, he had the washroom and an emergency exit. So whenever there was an attack on him, he easily goes out from that area. So all of this was for the comfort of the governor alone. Now, compare this to the dungeons. The captives were in there. You could see a stark contrast in it. Now from here, let's get to this. This is the trapdoor through which the selected and cleaned woman, after she is washed, is forced to walk up here through to the governor's bedroom, from the governor's bedroom back to the dungeon. So the governor was doing all of this at the blind side of the other occupants of the household. We are in the kitchen, and this was the governor's kitchen, where his daily meals were prepared. This particular oven was for the Portuguese. Now when the Dutch got in here, they never used this oven. They had their own oven built. So from here, let's check out the Dutch one. Alright, so we are in a church, and this church was built by the Dutch. You know, when the Dutch got in here, they were Protestants and had nothing to do with the Catholic church built by the Portuguese. So they built this church. Later on, this church became known as the Dutch Reformed Church. And as a church, this is what they have to say. This is written in Old Dutch, taken from the Holy Bible, from the book of Psalm 132, verse 13. And it reads, Zion is the Lord's resting place. He desires to be here eternally. So while they were in here worshiping, singing, and shouting, the women were directly below them. Below us is the dungeon where we saw the red cloth lying on the floor. So whenever there was an attack on the castle, the drawbridge you see there would be lifted, and when lifted would prevent access to this castle by any other person. Over here is a castle. When fired, it will travel to a distance of about 3 kilometers. Also put there by the Dutch, just as a security purpose. Now, apart from all of this, when you look up the hill there, you can see a white structure over there. It is a fort known as Fort St. Jago, also constructed by the Dutch in 1665 to serve as a watchtower over this castle, meaning that at the time they had soldiers in there who were watching over this castle from there. You know, the locals helped the Dutch to fight the Portuguese. So the Dutch thought or felt that a similar act could be perpetuated against them. So they needed to ensure that they were on top of security at all times. So they built this so that they could keep an eye over this castle from any possible attacker. Okay. So we are going to end our tour at the room of no return and see the door of no return. Alright, so let's go. When the ship had come, the men who also survived all these were taken out of the dungeon from the 600 bed. They were made to walk this way through another door from there to the last point in the whole process. Now for the men, when they got in here, some of them were branded. And when I talk about branding, they had stamps with initials and symbols of this regiment. And these stamps were placed in a fire later in this room. So this room became known as the branding room. Now when you take it out, they will smear a little oil at the point they want to mark, and they stamp it. On the back. People were dying from the result of the shock or the pain. And those who survived were put together, one to the other, in a line of about 5, 10, or 15, led down this way through to the last point. Whilst they were in transit, the only source of ventilation were these two openings, the one at the left and the one at the right. So this was for light and air. And up here is where most of them were fed. Yeah. So they threw the food and water from up there. So it became a matter of survival for the fittest. So you fight for it to eat to get up to the last journey in the whole process. Of your relative, being your mother, father, brother, sister, uncle, auntie, or even your own child, you were not allowed to talk. So the best thing you could do was to cry and cry and cry. And from this point, you were moved onto the last point in the whole process. Now, over here to the entrance is short, so you are compelled to bend down. Now, when you bend down, take about 4 or 5 steps before you get up. Don't be too quick to get up. Count about 4 or 5. Now, if you don't count 4 or 5, chances are that you could hit your head with a very thick wall we have over here. Right. So you bend down, take about 4 or 5 steps, then you are good to go. I hope that is clear. Yes. Now, after warning you, I will not be responsible.
The purpose of making the door so small?
You will get it. We are the last point in the whole process, meaning that nobody enters this room and went back. But today, I'm a kind man. Anyone who has entered is assured of going back. Yeah. Oh, you didn't say thank you.
Thank you.
He said he has known these men and women for long, and they were packed in a ship like a books on a shelf. He said a book on a shelf wouldn't allow other to be put on because the space is full, but not a person who has been given a ship to pack Africans. Pack them in a manner that no little space was allowed. And there is this guy called Richard Drake. He said he saw
pregnant women giving birth to babies whilst chained to corpses, because the drunken overseas had not come in yet to remove them. Now, when the ship had come, they were anchored at where we call the jetty. Smaller boats were brought close to the castle, meaning that at the time the seawater was touching the walls of the castle. It is now receded, and experts are attributing it to the movement of the earth, so it is natural. So meaning at the time there were steps in here on which these men and women descended into the smaller boat. From the smaller boat, they were packed into the bigger ships, and that ends it. It is estimated that 30,000 captives made their way out of this door each year. So if the trade went on for 400 years, we are talking about 12 million captives who were taken out of this. This does not include those who died along the way, or those who even died whilst in the cells over here. When they were into trading ivory and gold, the entrance or the gate was from this point to this end. When this evil trade started, they narrowed the gate to this size. And the narrow nature of it must not deceive us into thinking that probably they never brought in fat people. No, they brought in very big people. But you can just imagine staying in the dungeons, not getting as much food as you wanted. Before the ship comes, most of them could easily fit.